So if you're anything like me, you might have a little bit of trouble, or maybe a lot of trouble, if I'm being completely honest, getting things done. So taking a task from start to completion and not pooping out anywhere in between, and especially doing that when the project is something that you want for yourself. So it's not something that's urgent or an emergency. It's just something that's going to improve the quality of your life or your business or something that you want for yourself. So how do you actually get things done when you have ADHD and you got that little devil on your shoulder saying, you'll get to it next week? What you really need now is a snack and a nap. Yeah, a snack and a nap. In all seriousness, that is something that I deal with on the regular because I have ADHD. And if you are new here, welcome. My name is Kara McGill. I am an ADHD coach and creator, and I'm here for the busy, ambitious brains who want to get schnizzled done, but they don't have the right workflow in place. So today, I'm going to take you behind the scenes of my business and share with you my exact workflow to get schnizzle done so that I can actually pay my mortgage. So let's first define what a workflow actually is. And it's basically just a process for getting things done from point A to point Z. It can be a task, it can be a project, it can be something that's one-off or ongoing. It doesn't matter. The important thing is that you approach things with the right mindset and the right clarity so that you can actually follow through and get schnizzle done. So here's what I do, and I will relate it to a project that I'm working on right now in my business. I am planning on launching this fall a small cohort program for ADHDers who want to become entrepreneurs, but get hung up with prioritization and organization, follow through, task initiation, all those fun neurodivergent things that we have to deal with. So that is the goal in the project. And step one for me was actually defining what the outcome was. So I first had to think about, like, when do I want to have this launched? I think having a deadline is really important, even if it's only self-imposed. I also had to think about, what is it going to look like? And how do I envision myself actually, like, working through this? And sometimes when I'm doing projects like this, particularly in my business, I'll actually write out a sales page because that will help me articulate and define exactly what it is I want to do. And you would think that a sales page would be the last element. It's sort of like the book cover to your book, but I want to start there because it's going to help me conceptualize what the end result will look like. And that helps my brain start breaking down the process. And that is actually step two, to start breaking down the process. Now, I like to think about this in terms of chunking. And I say that because there's two kinds of people. There's people that can look at a big vision and actually break down the minute tasks that it's going to take to get there. God bless those people. I am not them. I am a big picture thinker. So my brain will only go as deep as, like, the major milestones or deliverables. So I'll write down things like, I need to have my branding. I need to have my messaging. I need to have an outline. I need to have a VIP list. I've got to think about all of these big deliverables. And that is about as far as my brain will go in terms of depth at this point. Now, when I'm thinking about these big deliverables, I can think of them from start to finish, like, I'm going to need this, and this, and I'll finish. Or I can think from the end point and work my way backwards. Or what I find works best for me is to just do a big brain dump of all of the things that need to get done. And then I will organize things chronologically. Now, step three is actually prioritizing your tasks or big deliverables, which, I don't know about you, but for me, it is very difficult to do that. Prioritization is an executive function, and that is probably one of my weakest executive functions. So what I found helpful for this particular project was to just get a piece of paper and a pen. At the bottom, I put the deadline, and I wrote week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and I just went through all of my deliverables and plotted them as best I could in terms of where I thought they would naturally make sense, like an outline at the top versus finalizing my sales page as the final thing that I do, and then everything in between. I find that when I write those things out on paper, they're a little bit easier for me to think outside of my head. Another thing that I could have done that didn't even occur to me at the time was to take all of my major deliverables and dump them into ChatGPT and just see what that would come up with in terms of a better structure of organization. So regardless of what process you use, for me personally, the goal is to get those big deliverables into a dated order, because that helps me to then break down the big deliverables into smaller tasks. My brain can then come to that level of detail and I can noodle things out even further. Once I have a task list, I then move on to step 4, which is transferring that list of tasks into my task management system, which, as you guys know, I use Notion, and that really just keeps my whole life and business running in the right direction. But use whatever task management system works best for you. Once you have everything laid out in your task management system based on whatever week it's due, then you can start applying estimated times to each of the tasks. I do like to do this process because it helps me generally think about whether or not my week by week milestones are realistic or not. Now, if you're somebody who has a busy calendar, then you probably also want to time block all of these tasks on your calendar. And the reason you want to do that is that it's visually going to show you exactly how much effort you are putting into getting this project done at a certain date. And that's either going to confirm that it's a good idea, or it's clearly going to demonstrate that you don't have enough time and that you need to rework your deadlines or your expectations in some way. Now, full transparency, I don't do calendar blocking anymore. And the reason is that I don't check my calendar a lot. Personally, I am a gal who does not like appointments. So whatever appointments I do have always happen on Wednesday. That means for the remainder of the week, I don't need to check my calendar. I only need to focus on my task list and make sure that I get my tasks for the day done, regardless of what time of day or night it is. Hey, if you like this productivity stuff as much as I do, then you might be interested in Distraction Action, which is my productivity program specifically for ADHD adults. So I will link that below where you can find more information on it. I have found it very useful, and everything I'm teaching you here today is part and parcel of that program. It's just a deeper dive. And on that note, back to the video. And step 5 is about mindset and thinking about how you're going to get through the project without pooping out. And a lot of that comes down to how intrinsically motivated you are to get something done. So if it's really interesting to you and you have a lot of energy to get started, then great, like rock on with your bad self and get started. If it's something that is ambiguous or ominous, or you can't find the right point of entry, or you're not that motivated, you need to, number one, decide whether or not it's the right project for you. And if it is, then you need to come up with some structure and strategies to help you follow through. So let's talk about that first piece of really deciding whether or not this is something you should do. If you have the skill, the motivation, the time, the resources to do it, but you can't find the motivation, you want to get really clear about what that is. Is it because there's ambiguity, or is there something else at play, like rejection sensitive dysphoria or perfectionism, black and white thinking? If you can't seem to get started, there might be something in your head that's preventing you from following through. This is another reason why I think it's so important to start with the outcome in mind. If you know what you're gunning towards, then it's going to reduce ambiguity, and you're going to have a greater sense of whether or not it lights you up. This is what's going to give you the emotional connection. And you can connect to either a positive emotion or, in some cases, a negative emotion. In terms of a positive emotion, you might be emotionally connected to the validation you're going to get when the project's done, or the connections you're going to make, or the advancement in your business or career that completing this project will actually deliver for you. Or you can think about the negative consequences, like your boss gave you a project, you're not emotionally connected to it, but you are afraid of actually getting reprimanded by your boss or losing your job. So in that case, you might use fear as an emotional trigger to get things started. But the one thing I want to warn you about: do not sit around and wait for the spirit of motivation to hit you. Motivation comes from an effort that's already started, which then delivers the dopamine to keep going. But if you never start, you're not going to get that dopamine. So if you're struggling to get started, what you need to do is think about the easiest point of entry into that project. For me, that might be typing in a ChatGPT my vision for the program that I'm working on and asking it to spit out a timeline or an outline or something that I can react to, because I find that I can start things a lot easier when there's something to react to rather than just a blank page, which can be extremely intimidating. So don't forget, ChatGPT is free and it is an excellent tool for ADHDers to help them get that starting momentum. Now, once you've started your project, how do you avoid pooping out? Follow through is a big topic for ADHDers. Very often we can lose interest in a project even when it's like 80%, 90% done. So if that's you and you know it's you, then you want to actually have strategies in place to make sure that you make it towards the finish line. That might be planning to hire somebody to do the last 20% work, if you can define what that work is, having an accountability buddy, going to body doubling sessions, or creating a group that's going through the same process that you're going through. That's why I'm doing this initial launch with a live cohort so that there's a sense of community and engagement to actually follow through with getting your business launched. So, any of those things are going to go a long way in terms of creating the structure you need to start and finish whatever it is that you're trying to work on. So, that, my friends, is the behind the scenes of how I get things done in my business. But there's one other thing that I didn't mention that is definitely worth mentioning and might actually be the most critical piece to this whole puzzle. And that is to implement some sort of a review process. So, once you've gone through that whole process of visualizing what it is you want and breaking it down and getting the support you need, then you need a process for staying emotionally connected to the project throughout the entire process. I have talked about this before on this channel, but every Friday I have as a recurring meeting on my calendar, 30 minutes every Friday to check in with my business. I check in with all of my projects that I'm working on. It's also my time to look at things like revenue and expenses and where is my growth happening in my business and where are my new customers coming in from. All the critical pieces in my business gets reviewed every Friday because if I take my attention off of it, I will forget it's there. It happens every time. So don't sleep on a weekly review. It is incredibly important for your work life and your personal life. And it's also the perfect time to check in with yourself and just understand, like, what did I love doing this week? What did I not love doing? What drained my energy? What lit me up? If you're not measuring those things on a regular basis, it makes it really hard to make intentional changes towards developing a business and a life that aligns with your energy and your interests and the things that are truly important to you. And I attribute my weekly review process towards the success that I have created for myself in this business. So on that note, let's recap the 5, I guess 6 steps that I go through every time I'm embarking on a new project. Step 1, I vision the outcome first. Number 2 is to break that down into manageable steps. And then step 3 is to prioritize those big chunks into a chronological order and start to flesh it out into smaller and smaller tasks. Step 4 is to take those tasks and put them into your task management system and also block the time out on your calendar. And step 5 is to think about how excited you are to get this project done. Think about your motivation and consider whatever might hang you up and create strategies to ensure that you get the thing done. And step 6, your bonus step, is to do a weekly review of your progress overall so that you know exactly how far you're going and exactly how far you have yet to go. So that's it, my friends. That is basically how I get things done in my business. And by the way, if you are interested in that live cohort, it's going to be launching in September. I will leave a link below to the interest list if you would like to get on that. I will send you more information when it's ready to launch. And on that note, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.